Hello and welcome back, I should say, because of course we've been here the entire time. Happy to have you joining us. I know that a couple of you people probably weren't here earlier because, of course, Tong Fu versus DK kind of ran a little bit later than I also think Beyond the Summit was expecting, because they started to get a little bit goofy there. But we will have ourselves the pre-game show. We will have, of course, our panel here as well, as we're waiting for them to connect back in, and when they are here, we are gonna have ourselves a bit of a talk about what's actually gonna happen with this coming best of 3, which is, of course, gonna be the winners bracket. Let's take a quick look at the brackets right now, as the winners bracket finals is not something to take lightly. I mean, VirtusPro Alliance, two of the favorites to take it all, of Alliance probably being the one that is the favorite to take it all, and we're gonna see if or who makes it through, because who gets a free day? That's basically our question here. We are gonna have a bit of a switch in the panelists. We have got Vykromond back here. Let's just bring him up, and we are missing actually K-pop Toastus, as he is just very sleep deprived. I am here still as well, and you just have to wait. After I do this, boom. Just have to add myself as a camera, because otherwise, you know, you won't see me. Wow, I'm a bit bigger than the rest. So yeah, let's be giving my people sound. Hello, Basskip. Hello, Vykromond and Kanaz. So, of course, in the top corner above me is Vykromond. He'll be the host of this panel. In the other corner, we see everybody sitting in the corner. What am I saying? In the top right corner, we see Kanaz, and the bottom right corner is Basskip. Vykromond, take it away while I mess with my camera.
Alright, so started off today with a bit of a surprising series. I was certainly way off when I said that. I'll go out and say it. I said that Quantic would blank Icy Cup. I was exactly wrong.
You weren't the only one.
I think everybody at least gave Icy Cup a game.
No, not even that.
Maybe not. No? Kanaz, you were wrong too? Alright, Daps.
Yeah, does it work?
Let's see. It's yes.
Awesome.
I had to open the stream and see where I was in which corner.
But yeah, either way, that was definitely a surprising way to start today off. So we're down to 3 teams, and now we'll winnow down to 1 team getting sent up to face IC Cup in the losers finals tomorrow, and 1 team will get a day off and a 1-game advantage in the best of 5 series on Sunday. And of course, the matchup today is between the 2 favorites of the tournament, VP and Alliance. So teams that have faced each other quite a few times before. But it's always surprising. We think Sheever mentioned yesterday that's a matchup where the sparks always fly. So why don't you take us into the VirtusPro versus Alliance matchup a little bit, Sheever?
Well, these 2 teams have had like very different results. One time the Alliance win, the other time VirtusPro wins. There's no real clear winner of these 2 teams, and because both of them have got like their own plan, both of them are actually able to be fairly aggressive in the game. There's always something happening. I really hope that I am not gonna have to bite back on those words, because otherwise it will be a bit bad. But most of almost all the games that I've seen in best of 3s or best of 1s from VirtusPro Alliance, it's been like fireworks back and forth until the very last minute where the GG got called or where the throne went down. For example, the game that these 2 teams had in StarLadder was taken by VirtusPro. Yep. It was one of the best matches of the entire season, purely because it went late game, but it was like brilliant plays over and over again for both teams. And it was just really enjoyable to watch, and I'm really hoping that they are going to be able to do that here again on the stage, of course, in Kiev.
Sure. And yeah, just drilling down a little bit more on the matchups that these 2 teams have had. In the games that you've seen, Kanaz, of VP and Alliance, just the general approach, is one team better suited to face the other in terms of how they play, or are they both sufficiently adaptable that it's kind of almost just whoever plays better?
I think it really comes down to who plays better. Both teams can play a few different strategies and work around each other. Neither is really stuck in playing the same thing every time. It's just a terrible matchup for them or anything like that. Sure. Realistically, I think I favor VP a little bit in this matchup, but I think Alliance definitely can and probably will take at least one of the games off of them. I think they're very evenly matched teams.
Yeah, they're definitely 2 very strong teams. One thing I want to talk about in terms of heroes is, for the matchup, is Lone Druid. So this is a hero that actually both teams play quite a bit. And if you guys want, actually, we can talk about the offlane matchup in general, because Bulldog and KSI rather, they both play sort of the same heroes. I feel like they actually have really similar hero pools. Like, they both really like Lone Druid, Nature's Prophet, and Darkseer, almost in that order. I feel like Xi's a little more Nature's Prophet focused, and of course Admiral Bulldog, everybody knows about Lone Druid. So do you think that that's going to make particular drafting approaches for either team that are focused around securing that offlane or banning out the offlane? Basskip?
I mean, I think it'll be interesting because, as you point out, they really share the hero pool. They're, all of those heroes I feel almost fit into the same kind of style. They're heroes that if things get terrible on the offlane, they've got somewhere else to go. So you're not necessarily stuck there. I mean, we've seen some Bulldog Bounty Hunter back when the hero was more popular, but it's sort of fallen off the face of the earth at the moment. So yeah, I think the offlane will be interesting because it's often left until last in the drafts, and people often end up in a really strange situation because just the general hero pool for the offlane is quite small. Like, the list of 3v1 heroes that do well is kind of limited. So we'll have to see if maybe the drafters will have to change their focus a little bit in moving that up.
Maybe. Let me follow up on that with you. Do you think that the offlane matchup could win a game or two for either team, just if they manage to outdraft or outstrategize the other team, simply because these are two offlane players that can sort of take over the game in the right circumstance, or will it be decided by something like support rotations or something?
I feel like even before the offliners and stuff become relevant in the game, just the support styles from each team are kind of different. I would say that VP are a little bit more aggressive with their supports. They try and get as much activity out of them as they can early game. Alliance have some strats where they do that, but it's not necessarily a staple. So I feel like it's more going to be about how that support early game plays out, and that's going to determine how active the offlaners need to be, in terms of farming or ganking, and that'll, the supports are really going to be setting the pace, especially when you've got such high caliber teams. The first 10 minutes are going to be really, really intense, I think.
Definitely. So yeah, I guess let's talk about that support situation. How much yesterday in Alliance's games against Quantic, or actually I should say, sorry, let me talk about VP's games against the IC Cup. I feel like game 2 for VP was almost won on NS's back. Like, he played such a good Earthshaker, he was extremely on point. How much of the series against Alliance do you feel really relies on Arsart and NS being able to dictate the pace of the game? Kanaz?
I think both sides, depending on who gets the best start with their alliance or with their supports and who is forced to really sacrifice them, is going to have a very big advantage. Both teams pretty likely to move around with their supports quite a bit. We've seen that from both teams, and again, I think yesterday versus Quantic, Alliance really showed that. They weren't necessarily doing that well in lanes, and then their supports started moving, and suddenly they're winning every lane. Very, very quickly. It's just very effective support rotations are kind of the name of the game for both of these teams. And I think that's why they've had a lot of success, and why they're both seen as very powerful teams. As to who it's going to favor, I think it's probably going to be Alliance a little bit if Aki can get a good, strong jungling hero. I think if he gets an Enchantress, he gets Enchant, he's very, very proficient on those heroes, and I don't think VP are really as comfortable with running the jungling supports. Maybe.
Yeah, they don't as much. I think Arsart, because he used to play with Puppey, and Puppey always takes the jungling supports, I think Arsart just hasn't really played that much Chen or Enchantress in a while. I've seen NS on Chen, but again, yeah, you're right. I don't think it's a hero that he particularly loves. Sheever, any more insight about the support matchup in particular? I definitely agree it's one of the most important locuses in the game, I think.
I think it will really depend, like, which heroes can they secure for themselves, obviously, but then also, is it a team of supports that can be active early on? And whoever is active earliest with the support duo, I think is going to be having a head start. Because being able to shut down that mid lane for either team is going to be very important, and supports are very key to try and do that. That's basically what I say.
I definitely agree. So, Alliance, against a team like VP, which is sort of known for early to mid-game aggression, really like seeking out, rotating early, applying a lot of pressure, should Alliance take a slightly more defensive tack, or do you think the right approach for them is to sort of go aggressive? Especially, like, in their previous matchups, Sheever, have they had more success sort of trying to match VP's aggression pound for pound, or do you expect that Alliance will play a little bit more cagey and defensive?
I would like to think that Alliance has been more successful in trying to use the aggression as their savior, as also being as aggressive as they are. But then again, I mean, their record is so even that it is hard to determine what actually was the factor that got them the game in the end. And of course, the later the game goes, even if you match aggression blow for blow and the game goes very late, it's not going to be gold experience that's going to matter anymore. Not even heroes. It's all going to be decision making, where you're going to be, what you're going to be doing. And then it comes into play, I think, experience. And at that, it is, I like to think it's also fairly even in terms of experience. The captain's role is going to be very important. I would actually favor VirtusPro a little bit in the late game in the experience of that all the players have, and I don't just mean the captain mode, the captain player at that point, but every single player to just know exactly what their place is on the map, where they can and cannot go, what they can and cannot do, and that's gonna be in the later game the factor. But they first have to make it to late game.
That's a good point. I mean, we do have some players on both teams, I feel like, who have a tremendous amount of experience and some who have a lot less. Like, I don't think C has that much LAN experience, for instance. Neither does, as far as I know, Ake. Oh, actually, no, Ake did a lot of Han LANs and stuff. But, I mean, Loda obviously has been around the scene for 1 trillion years. NS, basically around the same time. I mean, both living Dota legends, as one of their Twitters might say, but they've both been around the scene. They both have been to a lot of LANs. Does the fact that this is on a LAN impact the game, really? Do you think it'll lead to more aggressive play or more like execution-based heroes for Tame by Wild, for instance, like Puck, or do you think the LAN doesn't really make a difference? Basskip?
I think the LAN makes a difference. And talking about the LAN making a difference, I actually want to bring up something that I kind of noticed yesterday, which is we were talking about the VP supports, but if I'm Alliance, I feel like they're being a little bit over-aggressive right now. That they're trying to make some plays that sometimes aren't necessarily there, and they're getting caught out. And Alliance are brutal when it comes to punishing mistakes, or at least what could be perceived as mistakes. So I feel like the VP supports seem to be really careful that in a LAN environment they don't try and be too flashy, and they don't try and go for. They don't try and risk something that they don't have to, because some of those pickoffs that we saw yesterday, they actually ended up costing them. I mean, good play got them out of the situation, but there were probably situations that they shouldn't have walked into in the first place. So I think making sure that you keep your cool on LAN is going to be a big deal.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, LAN, it's an easy environment to get sort of caught up in the action, caught up in the hype. Obviously, it's the winners bracket final between two titans of the scene, so there's going to be the audience is definitely going to be into it. I mean, it is in Kiev, so maybe slightly tilted to VP, but honestly, I don't know. Alliance is such a popular team, and Loda's such a popular player as well that it could really tilt either way as far as the crowd reaction. I guess since we have some time, we're sort of been dancing around it, but I want to, rather than try to say which team is favored, you guys have sort of made individual comments, but I'd like to sort of just break it down position by position and what we think the key is in each role and sort of who has the slight, if any, advantage in that role. So let's start out, let's just go straight down the list. So we'll start at the one position. We've got Loda on the one side and Airman on the other. I feel like two players who both exhibit a wide variety of different styles. Different favored heroes, too, I feel like. They sort of drift towards one end or the other. Airman playing a ton of Naga Siren, for instance. More Gyrocopter than I think Loda really likes, whereas Loda, a wide variety of heroes, but we talk about the Lifestealer, we talk about, of course, Phantom Assassin, Wisp, the combo. So what are the keys in the one matchup? I feel like these are almost the two biggest mysteries as far as performance on these teams, but what are the keys to the matchup and who's favored, if anybody? Can you ask?
I think in the one matchup, maybe VP rely on their one a little bit more heavily than Alliance often do, because Alliance so often pick sort of off carries for their other positions, the 2, the 3, Variable like an S4. VP typically don't play like triple carry lineups. They'll have like aggressive heroes, like maybe a Queen of Pain for Tame My Wild in the mid lane, but Queen of Pain is not really the same as like a Lone Druid, a Dragon Knight as the game goes on. And so I think if Alliance really punish VP and shut down their carry, it can really hurt VP a lot more than maybe trying to aggressively tri-lane into Alliance and just focusing on shutting down Loda.
Yeah, that's a good point. Basskip, anything else to add to that?
I feel like VP's side, they're a little bit better with the independent carries, so like a carry that might end up going for a solo kill or is farming by themselves more often, and Loda, I feel like he's often in the middle of his team, and like things can go a little bit awry if the attention of his team is pulled away from him and he's sort of left to his own devices, because I mean this is mean, and I'm like, you know, going to a bit of a Twitch meme here, but like Throta is a thing. Like Loda often wins a game because of the other 4 people on his team are so great that he never has to really, I mean, do all that much. He's a really solid player, but if the rest of his team is occupied and pressured, then you know there is going to be a lot of weight on him, and I feel like he's maybe a little bit worse on those like independent carry heroes. So we'll see.
Sheever, do you agree?
Yeah, normally Loda like relies a little bit more on his team than Illidan would.
Sure.
I would agree with that. Yes. On top,
Alright.
yeah.
Okay. I think that's a good overview of that matchup, so let's move on. This mid is also really interesting because I feel like a lot of the time you end up with battles of mids where they have very similar styles. They sort of just have the same burst of the game, same style of heroes. S4 and Tame My Wild have some hero overlap, but to me it seems like they're very different in style and very different in terms of what they bring to the team. So will either approach sort of be favored in this particular matchup, the more aggressive, all-out, early ganking style of Tame My Wild, or do you think the more collected, team-fight-oriented S4 actually gets the advantage? And I guess I'll kick this back to you, Sheever, since you haven't spoken about it.
Well, I actually like. Okay, S4 has got a bit more preservative mid lane. He is being called one of the best, if not the best, mid hero or mid player in the Western scene at the moment. And you know, if you're then gonna be up against an aggressive player like Tame My Wild, and if you're at least able to make sure that, like, the thing is, S4 often plays heroes that makes the lane either a wash or he loses it. And considering it's S4, he probably won't lose the matchup, and that means that if he does, if the matchup is a wash, that's going to be in favor of S4 because you don't have your opponent win the lane. I mean, it makes sense, obviously, but the heroes that Crazy normally plays, they are needed to win their lane. They need to win their lane, and then they transition into ganking and all that stuff, and into that enormous semi-carry that is very annoying to deal with. But S4 has got this strength that he is able to hold that down. He might not win his lane, but he can hold it down.
Right. Anything else to add to that, Kanaz?
No, I think I mostly agree. It's going to be a very strange matchup because, like you said, they're very different in the style they play. S4, obviously, very passive and teamfight oriented. I don't know. It's going to really come down to what the heroes they end up getting in those matchups, I think, are. And that'll come down to what the draft ends up looking like.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the draft could have a factor. Basskip, since you had some pretty strident opinions about the last matchup, do you have any call-outs for S4's Tame My Wild? Who's favored?
I don't actually know who's favored, because I think mid lane is as much a battle of the mids as it is a battle of the supports now. And I mean, here's the thing: like S4 feels like a pillar in his team. Like, he never really has an awful game. You can always rely on him having reasonable farm. So if VP can, pick up an aggressive mid for, if they can pick up an aggressive mid and they can get some aggressive support rotations to connect, and they can erode, that pillar, and they can not have, Alliance rely on S4 to always be there to, back up team fights and things like that. And I think that's a really good option. I'm not sure. It's going to come down to drafting and how both what heroes they're going to end up on, because the mid lane right now is very matchup dependent.
It is, yeah. And I guess while we're talking about potentially matchup dependent positions, well, actually no. Let me skip the offlane for now, because we talked about the offlane matchup a bit earlier, and I definitely agree that if mid is draft dependent, offlane is just as much so, especially with heroes whose hero pickups have been dissected as often as, of course, Admiral Bulldog. It's kind of like everybody's pet game to decide how you're supposed to draft to auto-win against ABD. But so we'll skip that for now. Let's talk about. We talked a little bit about the supports, but I want to get down to the nitty gritty. Who do you? I think the support battle we said is almost the most important matchup in this game. And in the end, which support pair do you favor and why? Kanaz?
I think if Arsart gets the farm he wants on his 4 role, I'd favor VPs. If Arsart struggles a little bit early on, I think EGM Aki, they play a lot more solid. As the game goes on, they can work with a lot less. So I mean, I think that comes down to, again, the draft, but I think Alliances is probably a little bit stronger, just in the straight, clean matchup.
Sure. Sheever?
Well, in terms of supports, like the one thing that we already mentioned, the biggest difference is that we already see it on the screen as well. Aki plays Jen, Enchantress, Visage, all heroes that are not that often played by virtus.pro, and that could really be a factor that could help Alliance take this game. On the other hand, I mean, it's a bit different, right? Because we have got EGM and Arsart, they normally play a bit of the 4, but sometimes, and that's really dependent on which hero he plays, he takes up the 4 role, and then you've got a number 5 support who is used to playing as a 4 role, and that could be very difficult to deal with, because both, like, it will be good for virtus.pro, both will be able to be a bit of a number 4 / semi-carry maybe later on, especially if you have those later games. That's going to be more and more important.
Sure.
And I think that virtus.pro has got a bit of an edge in that term. However, early game, if Aki gets himself a jungle creep, or jungle hero rather, obviously, or a Visage in this case as well, Alliance is going to look really good, but transitioning into the late game, virtus.pro is probably going to have the better of it, depending on which support they manage to get their hands on.
So you think late game VP probably, simply because they're used to working with farm and scaling, but jungle hero insta-win for Alliance. Is that what I'm getting?
No, not insta-win. It's more
insta-win.
like... No, like late game, I agree virtus.pro, like that's indeed what I said. And I mean, like, if Alliance early game support team.
Okay, fair enough. Alliance early game,
if they have a
late game. Interesting. Yeah. Basskip, what's your take on the supports?
I mean, you have to take the supports as a pair, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm not actually sure who has better synergy as a support pair. I feel like Ake and EGM are better at like bailing one another out and that sort of more team play oriented aspect. And I think that also comes down to the jungle play. Like if you're going to be running a Chen Shadow Demon roam or a Rubik Enchantress roam or something like that, you have to be spot on with every single gank, every single spell, because otherwise you're just wasting time. So I feel like as each individual support, I like VPs more. They're super experienced supports. They've been around forever. But for the pairing, I think I have to favor Alliance. But VP are going to be, I think, more aggressive with the supports, and we'll see. I think that's going to be a big deal. If the VP supports rack up a bunch of kills early game, and there isn't the instant TP rotations and stuff from Alliance, then they're off to... That's going to be great for them. But I feel like Alliance don't even need to be too aggressive. They can just wait for that to happen and try and punish it as best they can.
Sure. All right. Well, yes. Since we don't actually have anybody in the lobby, we will return to the offlane. So I'm starting to get the sense we had mixed opinions on the supports. I feel like Basskip, you said a little more tilted towards Alliance. Is that fair? Yeah, I mean, you said that, so it is fair.
Yeah.
You can't take it back now. Sorry, that was a rhetorical question. Damn it. And then Sheever said VP more if it sort of goes late, especially if they bet out those jungle heroes. Kanaz, I feel like you said it was a little more balanced. It just depends on what the matchup ends up being in their early game decision making. Is that these fair characterizations? You're allowed to change your opinion because you were less out there.
So mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much what I was getting at. Is that I think the draft is really important in these matchups.
It is. I definitely agree the draft's important, but it's also I feel like it's difficult. We're gonna get I'm gonna go a little more general. 6.78. Is it still possible to win or even get a significant advantage in the drafting stage, both broadly, generally, and in this matchup? Can VP or Alliance actually earn themselves a big advantage to the draft? And if you think so, you have to say how. Basskip?
I feel like if VP I don't know. Maybe they can win the psychological battle in the draft. Like the first game, just absolutely crush S4 like mid, just make him feel completely useless, and then maybe the next game in the draft, he's a little bit on tilt, something like that. I mean, hopefully not, but I mean, in general, outdrafts are still definitely a very real thing, even in the recent patch. And some people have already seemingly been caught out a little bit by the recent change to the second pick team having a ban and then immediately a pick, and just not being prepared for the fact that they can both remove a counter to a very strong hero and then take that hero themselves.
Sure.
So, I mean, I think that's brought the drafting, bot drafting back to being a little bit more even, as far as like one team has first pick and last pick, one team has a pick pair and then a ban pick.
Yeah.
But if you're not careful, you can still end up in a situation where all three of your lanes are, and that's an outdraft. So, yeah, I think it's still a possibility.
All right, Kanaz?
I mean, I think you could definitely get outdrafted. I think we saw it already today with the team getting completely outdrafted and it making it so they couldn't really do too much in the game with the match earlier. So I think it can definitely happen. I don't really expect it to happen with these teams. Alliance plays so many different heroes, it's really kind of hard to just completely shut them down in the draft. And I feel like they rarely, if ever, just pick a bunch of lanes that aren't going to do anything. If they know if they're going to pick a mid lane for S4 that has a lot of trouble early on, like a Dragon Knight or something, then their support pair is usually more aggressive to be able to move around, help him out. They don't just pick supports that sit in the jungle and pull all game, and like a Dragon Knight mid and like a Clockwork off lane. They're all just going to sit until they, get a ton of experience, and the other team's already way ahead.
Sure.
Maybe VP. I think VP
pulling all game
is
the old Alliance before they were Alliance.
Yeah, not that anymore. They don't do that anymore.
No, they don't.
I think VP is probably in the same boat though. They can play quite a few heroes. You can try and ban out all of Illidan's heroes. We talked about how he only plays like a few specific heroes that he seems to play every game. But there are other carries he's played from time to time, and he can play them well. It's what do you ban out against that? If you want to just take away the ones you think he's comfortable with, he can show you something different, and then you're not prepared for it. Same like with Admiral Bulldog. Like if you want to ban out the Admiral Bulldog heroes, there are other heroes he can play. It's just no one makes him do it.
Yeah, definitely. I guess Sheever, any other thoughts on outdrafting? Whether either team can get outdrafted this matchup more generally?
I think it can happen, but I think it won't happen. Like, of course, always you can. I think you can always, like already said, draft, not specifically outdraft, but draft so that you lose all the lanes. I heard an interview today, a small interview part with Snaking, who was of course on Dignitas, who said like they rather face Alliance because they feel like if they win the laning stage, they can at least, snowball from there and then start pushing onwards. While if they play up against Alliance and they do good early game in the laning stage and they do good mid game, they still always feel that Alliance has got a way of coming back into the game because they play so well from being behind. I think that's also one of VirtusPro's strength though, and that makes this a matchup of course all the more spectacular because it means that if indeed, like for example, Alliance, they kind of like maybe slightly outdraft VirtusPro, so it means that they win the laning stage at least, and from there on out, VirtusPro is going to be from behind, but because they are a skilled team that can play very well from behind, they know exactly what to do, and they make sure they get ahead, but then Alliance is from behind, and they can do the same thing, and vice versa, and I think that makes this matchup so Dynamic. That's not the word I was looking for, but it does work out. Yes. Sure.
And sorry, who did you say Snaking said he would rather face than
Navi.
Alliance?
Navi.
Oh, Navi. Okay. Yeah.
It was there was actually a movie gone live this afternoon from Join Dota about before and beyond Dota 2. It was a movie about movie about DreamHack, to be fair, or at least made at DreamHack.
Thought it was before and beyond, like how everybody used to play Han, and now everybody's gonna play
not
Dawngate,
so
the EA
far,
MOBA.
Not so far. It's just,
beyond Dota 2.
It's a
Dawngate.
feel-good movie about esports.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
that sounds good. I really like that the new like long-form video content that Join Dota has, like that Milk interview. That was awesome.
That was really good.
Oh,
yeah, I think if they do a lot more of that, that's gonna be really, really cool.
Well, this one is about that.
All right.
So it's cool.
Yeah. Okay, we've been dancing around it. So we talked about all the lanes basically. We talked about off lane earlier, so I'm just gonna skip that because I don't wanna repeat that. But then taking that all together, I feel like I've given you guys an abundant amount of time to think about who's gonna win this matchup today in the winners bracket. So we'll go clockwise from you, Kanaz. Who wins winners bracket? Not talking about the finals, just this particular match.
Well, for my final prediction to be correct, VP have to lose this match to come back from the losers bracket. So I'm going to go 2-1 Alliance.
Okay, 2-1 Alliance, and VP wins game 1 or game 2?
Whichever one they have first pick in.
Whichever one they have first pick. All right, fair enough.
Wait, no, whichever one they have second pick in.
Okay. Why? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I want to find out why you think that. What's so good about second pick?
I think the new. I forgot. I was thinking they didn't do the patch, but the patch is out now. The ban into a pick, I think, is more important. I think that's going to be very good, especially if they want to. If they're going to do something surprising to catch Alliance off, I think that's very important.
Yeah,
so I think second pick is more open to having that happen.
Cool. Yeah, I think you might be right. Basskip? Who wins?
Okay, Alliance 2-1, but if VP take the first game, it might be 2-0 to them. So
if VP win game 1, you think
if VP win game 1, I feel like they might be able to take it 2-0. If they lose game 1, I feel like the best outcome for them is 2-1, and they get they get knocked down.
All right, Sheever.
Yeah, I think the first one to win the game, I think the one that wins the first game is going to be winning the best of 3 series, but with the third game. But that is, of course, a prediction that doesn't really say anything, so I will still say something. But I want this to be on the record as well, just in case just so that I can still be right.
Okay, fair enough.
But I think it is going to be. I'm going to change it around. I'm going to think VirtusPro is going to make it to the winners bracket. Winner, like the grand final. So Alliance will be knocked to the loser bracket finals tomorrow.
All right, fair enough. So VP 2-1, and I guess you think VP wins the first game, Alliance wins the second one. But if Alliance wins the first game, then you totally change your prediction and you call Alliance 2-1.
Yes.
All right, fair enough. I don't know. I was so out on a limb this morning saying that Quantic is going to take it 2-0. I feel like I've been chastened by the outcome, so I'm not going to predict a sweep. I'm going to say Alliance 2-1 as well. Because to make my finals prediction come true, for Alliance to sweep VP in the final, VP obviously have to come from losers brackets. So for internal consistency, we'll go with Alliance 2-1. I want to do one other thing, as we actually have players filtering in. But we talked a lot about the draft, and I think you guys all had some pretty interesting opinions as to what teams could try to do to get themselves an advantage. So the least interactive part of the draft is those first 4 bans, the bans before you really get any pick chances. So I want each of you to predict the game 1 first round bans. You don't have to say which teams, just which 4 heroes will get banned in the first round. Sheever, go.
Wisp Batrider.
Wisp Batrider, alright. I think you mean IO Batrider, because Wisp isn't a hero, but yeah, I don't know why you're throwing a prediction away like that. Alright, IO Batrider. Go on.
I might change it around because I'm thinking Lone Druid. Still.
Okay, Lone Druid.
Oh, IO Batrider, Lone Druid, Darkseer.
One more. Darkseer.
Yes.
Alright.
Are you writing it down? Because I'm not going to remember.
Of course I'm writing it down!
What do you think we're doing? We're all typing it out. Every single one of us types it out.
Okay, because I kind of remember what I said a moment ago. It's cool.
Oh, I remember what you said a moment ago. Don't worry about it.
Good.
Alright, Basskip.
So let's go. So LD, Bat, Darkseer, and See, this comes down to who I think has first pick, right? So, Nature's Prophet.
Alright, sorry, so LD, Bat, DS, and Prophet. Yeah?
Yes. Did I miss anyone overpowered?
Of course you did. That's the whole thing about the 2 bans, right? It's not 3 bans per space anymore. You can't take out Lycan and still take, like, Pudge and shit against Navi.
Lycan.
Kanaz.
Oh, I should predict the Lycan first, and I see. I think it's going to be Bat, Io, Lone Druid, Naga.
That IOLD Naga. All right, huh? Oh, that leaves Mish. I didn't think about my answer to this question before asking this question.
Just look at all of ours and decide what you like most out of our choices.
Yeah. I think IOLD Naga Prophet. Actually, let's go with that. And I think that route is going to go through. Yeah. Because it's such a VP... I feel like Alliance likes to... It's funny, because even though Alliance say that you shouldn't ban particular heroes against them, they are really happy banning heroes against you. Like, they will definitely ban heroes against other teams. So, I like the Kanaz Naga. I'm going to piggyback off of that. Why not? The only other thing is Tree, because I know Loda hates Treant, and if Treant goes through, VP plays OD in 2 separate positions. So it could be Tree in that Naga slot. Oh yeah, I'll change it to Tree, because I'm keeping the notepad document. Yeah, eat it, noobs. Alright, so we have our predictions.
Awesome.
I mean, I
So
think I got.
Am I
we'll
the
see how
only
it
one that
goes.
mentioned the Darkseer?
I think Darkseer's a
Oh,
possibility.
good. Because
But you are the only one, yeah. So if Darkseer gets in, you're in good shape.
Ooh.
Alright. I think that'll be it, because we do have players filtering in. I think we'll get started in just a few moments. Thanks everybody for your input. Sorry that I put you guys out on so many limbs this time, but we had a little more time, so I thought we'd have some fun with it. Put some more predictions on the table for all your rares.
Rares are good.
I'm gonna get cleaned out.
Luckily, yeah, I don't bet. I give my rares away. It's way better.
Wow, that's to charity?
No, to subscribers.
Can I have some free rice, Sheever?
Alrighty, so that's the analyst panel, and I guess we'll be going up into the game in just a few moments. Thanks, Sheever.
Yeah, we are of course gonna have the Winners Bracket Finals, VirtusPro and Alliance taking on each other to see who gets a day off and a Winners Bracket advantage. 2 pretty big things to have happen, and of course you just want to have your day off. That's good. And for that, we're going to have Kanaz co-casting. We're going to have Vykromond, who's going to be our statsman, as K-Poptosis is indeed sleeping. And talking about sleeping,
He's sleeping.
That's where Basskip will be heading to as well, because his clock is...
Bed right there.
You actually make your bed for the cast?
What?
You make...
Yeah, my room is clean. At least as far as you guys can tell with the webcam.
It looks pretty clean.
And we see the mirror there as well, so we see only a stack of books there on the floor. Okay, people.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
You caught me. That's which side am I trying to cover?
Yes.
Yeah. Damn. Okay. There we go.
Yeah, I just position my webcam high because everything below this level is just filth. Absolutely, I'm just swimming in a pile of crap.
Okay, well, it's a good thing then that the camera is indeed that low. Or, well, you know, we only see that because the mirror shows it, Basskip. So you can maybe...
Yeah, it's revealing all of my secrets.
Yes. Yes. So yeah.
Oh, is that a
you'll be
mirror?
sleeping-
I thought he just had a perfectly symmetrical room.
Like, oh nice, you got 2 book closets. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked okay, but then he also would have 2 ACs. I mean, the stream can't see that, but you know, he has 2 air
Well, it's
conditioning.
warm down under, man.
It's actually
I guess
isn't
it's
it
winter, so
winter
maybe
right
not.
now?
It's winter right now. That's why I'm like rugged out.
They're bundled.
It's on the other side of the country. What time is it for you? What time is it for you?
4:10 in the morning.
Okay, Die Hard.
Ben!
You're right there.
No.
Yes. So,
You can't make me.
No, I can't make you. But you should.
but
I should.
But yeah,
I'm
people,
off.
you want to show support to everybody here who sacrifices sleep to be here for you. I'm not only talking about Basskip because people from the US, the other 2 on this overlay, like I'm not sacrificing sleep, screw that. But the other 2 did wake up very early, apart from Vykromond actually. You slacked.
Not me.
But Kanaz was up early. I do sacrifice some sleep as well, as I have to make VODs afterwards and such. So takes time. But yes, support us by following us on Twitter. All our Twitter tags are below our camera boxes, so go do that and tweet at us what you think about the whole production thing you've got going here, because we did put a bit of effort in it to try and provide you with a bit of extra coverage here. So yeah, we are going to be going into the next match, so stick around and wave. Other people wave.
It didn't work as well today.
Okay.